Okay, awesome. I think this is the time to officially kick off the AMA. I'm delighted to be back in the AMA host seat once again. This is our first AMA. It's been a couple of months, I think, since last year, and the first one on our completely new platform on Livestorm. The last time we saw each other was on Zoom. So happy to see our audience back here, and happy to welcome Pierre as our first AMA speaker of this year. He might be a familiar face to some of you. He's an investor at Lattice, and he's also one of the co-founders of DevMetrics, which is essentially a data analytics platform for crypto investments. I know our team members use it extensively, and I know people in our audience have probably used it a lot in their careers as well. So it's delightful to welcome you here and to hear about your experiences as a founder in the crypto space, about the world of crypto VC and everything else our audience might want to know. So to kind of kick off, we have a classic question we ask everyone, which is, when you were still in school, maybe in university, I'm sure you had grand plans for the future. So what were your plans and how do they compare to where you are now?
Yeah, first, thanks for having me. I'm a big fan of what you guys are like building. So yeah, when I was at school as a young student, I'm still like a very like a big like sports fan. So I wanted to become whether like an athlete or basically work at a big like sports company in the clothing industry, for example, or on the event side. So that was like completely different from like crypto, blockchain, and even like tech. Um, but yeah, like a few years ago, I just like quickly realized that like this like VC thing and like more generally speaking, like this tech ecosystem was like very attractive and interesting. So I started like listening to podcasts, reading stuff, as like many people did, I guess. And yeah, that's so I got into crypto initially, and like obviously a very good friend of mine was working at Messari back in the day, so he got me into the space as well, and that was like very helpful. And yeah, then I just like as a as a French like as a French student, I would just like wanted to work as a VC in the crypto scene, and just like realized that like the crypto sphere in France was like very nascent. So I just like pinged hundreds of people on Twitter, trying to break into the space, and like some of them like got back to me. Some investors, Regan Busman was one of them. Back in the day, was doing like this like transitioning thing between like CoinList and Lattice. He was like helping DeFi protocols with like growth and go to market. So I joined his like very small team, and that was my first like official step into the industry. So to answer your question, like very different from what I was like thinking about as a kid.
That is very different. I think so far it's the most different we've heard. People usually come from like, computer science or, finance, something like that. But this is an interesting journey. So to kind of like latch on to that question. So for you, has it been, the chicken or the egg? Was it VC first or crypto first and then VC? What was kind of the
No, so maybe just to clarify, before getting into crypto, I did some tech investment banking in Paris. So so I did this business school, mostly focused on finance, corporate finance, and then like my first job was like I was like a tech M&A analyst in a very small like boutique in Paris. So we were like basically advising entrepreneurs to sell their like companies, mostly like tech startups, or to raise like funds, mostly like Series A and Series B funding rounds from like European VCs. So that was like my first like professional step in the tech professional world. And then like yeah, I quickly realized that I wanted to become like an investor, a VC ideally. And as I was like spending most of my free time, and professional time as well, but don't tell the boss, on the crypto side, yeah, just like realized that this is what I wanted to do. So I would say VC first, and then crypto.
Okay, great. So this is logical then how you got into crypto and investment. And I guess it also explains why you started Metrics, but can you also kind of tell us about your journey, about like where the idea came from and how you went about actually founding it?
Yeah, so as I said, back in the day, we were like helping DeFi protocols with like go-to-market topics mostly, and like on the side, we just like realized that there was not like a very good fundraising data source. So we just like Regan and I decided to build this like fundraising database very manually, just as a gift to the community, because just to make like founders life easier basically. And yeah, we just like created like an Airtable and started like scrapping things online. That became like pretty quickly like decent, and like we got like very early traction. Founders seem to be like honestly loving it. They told us that was like very useful because like the big players like PageBook and Crunchbase were doing like a pretty bad job with like crypto fundraising data. So then we just like made some money on top of it with a newsletter and some like sponsors. So we could like outsource at least part of the work. We tried to automate this thing to build like a software part, but that was a bit hard because first you cannot like, I mean, there is no standardized way to announce like a fundraising rounds, right? So it's hard to automate that. And then the second element is that we were like focused on first like this like consulting job, and then like Lattice, and we wanted to build like one of the best like early stage crypto VC fund, and that was obviously very time consuming. So Metrics was a side thing, so that's why we decided to sell it and to find like a new home for the data sets. So we sold it to Messari last summer. I think that was the good option. We could have built like I think like a real company based on this data, but that was just like not the focus, and we had to make like a choice.
Yeah, and obviously, your platform was very important to a lot of founders, and you've probably been in touch with a lot of tech founders in the space. So do you think working on a project like a data analytics platform versus starting something like a protocol made your kind of Web3 journey different to what other founders experience from the moment they want to start building a company to, actually selling it or fundraising?
Sorry, what
So essentially, could you compare your kind of founder journey to that of a traditional Web3 founder who is more of a, protocol or something of that kind?
Oh, got it. Yeah, honestly, that's not comparable. That's completely different.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there is like this entrepreneurial mindset, which is common, but otherwise, we didn't build like a software company that was just like data heavy and focused. So that was like very different. But the biggest learning, and maybe that's a good like comparison point. The biggest learning is that you can build something meaningful if there is like a real problem to solve and like a big opportunity. And this like in that Metrics case, that was the case. Like fundraising data was, I mean, is valuable for a large set of like players in the space, and like that was missing because, as I said, like the traditional operators were just like didn't focus on Web3 funding rounds and missed most of them. So even with like a very primary version of a product, in our case, that was like an Airtable, we managed to get like meaningful traction because we plugged a hole on the data side. So that's the only like comparison point. Otherwise, obviously, I have a bunch of respect for founders building like protocols, which is like way more complex to build.
Thanks so much for your answer. And to kind of move on to the final part of my questions before we hand off to our audience, we've talked about, how the crypto industry moves fast and you kind of have to stay on top of everything that's happening. So what do you, both as someone who's interested in crypto, but also as an investor, see as the most kind of promising areas of growth and innovation? Maybe not purely from an investor perspective, but from a technological perspective as well.
Yeah, that's a good question. There are like a bunch of things to watch out for in 2023, and we're like obviously very very excited. Recently, I like personally spent some time in the NMAV side, which is like very cool. I think that like all the flow auction systems are like a very still like honestly overlooked and under the radar industry. We're like very bullish, and we haven't like, to be fully transparent, taken any position yet in the space, but it's very interesting when you think about it that like in crypto today, like when a user generates like a transaction, MEV, like researchers extract value from it, and we need to find ways to let users capture the value they basically create. So that was like a technological like niche vertical I like recently looked at. Otherwise, obviously there is like these ZK ZK narrative trend, which is like going pretty crazy in the space. There is also like DVT, which enables like Ethereum like proof of stake validators to like operate across like multiple nodes or like machines, which is cool. I mean, many different spaces. We are like in an early stage, but also like vertical agnostic funds. So we have to keep like to stay on top of like everything being built and trying to like predict what's the next big thing. So that's very exciting.
Fantastic. And since our space moves so fast, how do you keep up with everything? What's happening? Do you have a preferred source of information? I assume it's crypto Twitter, but maybe there are others.
Yes, I used to be like an EV user or consumer of the Daily 8, which was like just a Telegram channel, which like consists of like creating the best like Twitter threads on a daily basis. That was like very useful for many people in this industry. Unfortunately, like Darren is on break. But otherwise, I spend most of my time reading like Delphi and Messari like research articles. Obviously, bunch of time on just like on crypto Twitter, and then just like some newsletters and some podcasts. But it's hard to create like good content in this space, actually. So that's a real challenge. I think you have to pick like a very limited number of like sources and just like stick to it. But yeah, these are like my main like resources, like for, I mean, at least from a daily basis.
Awesome, thank you. Well, I'd like to open it up to audience questions, and I already have a couple of people I know want to ask a question. So I've invited Philip to the stage, who will join us in a second. And then I will also invite a couple more people who are also lined up, so we don't have to wait for them to join.
Hello, you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, hello. So my question is straightforward. With the AI tech trending now and being thrown a lot, how do you tell the real thing from, hype?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that's one of the biggest like challenges as a VC, to stay away from like hype and FOMO. Like we always tend to be like biased by like top investors' investments, right? As an example, like the last bull run was at least like partially led by this like play to earn narrative. And at Lattice, we stay like away from the trend because we were like very skeptical. But we had to build like a conviction, right? Otherwise, you just like to buy it. So that's art. On this like AI thing, I mean, it's still like very early, so that's hard to say. We spoke with like some teams building at the intersection at AI of like at the intersection of AI and crypto. I don't think it's only bullshit. I think there is like real value there. But you have to keep in mind that to like talk about like AI specifically, it's becoming like increasingly clear in like that people who create like LLM and AI models won't be the ones who capture the value. they create, which is like completely different from like crypto, because in crypto you have like the people who create the technology, they capture like a good chunk of the value, as they say, like be close to the money and it will be good. And this is what's basically happening with like OpenAI APIs, for example. But to answer your question, that's a big challenge for any VC in the space, especially in crypto, because there is like uncertainty, and you have to keep to stick to your like own conviction and be like a long-term builder. But I think we've been doing like a pretty decent job at it at Lattice, at least.
Do you get like a consultation? Asking from your personal experience, how do you know? Some AI developer can claim a lot of things. So do you get some consultation to see if it has merit, or how do you determine ultimately if you should invest in some AI technology or not?
We don't have like a specific person focused on AI at Lattice. I'm not gonna lie, but we work closely with like with a technical advisor who used to be a software engineer at Amazon. So that's how we assess projects, like generally speaking, not only on the AI side, from a technical perspective, when we think it's like needed before making like an investment decision. But yeah, again, we don't have like anyone like specifically focused on AI.
Okay, and final question, if that's okay, if I didn't go overboard here. This one is really short and related to all of this. Do you have any recommendation? This might be relevant to others as well. Do you have any recommendation for VCs that are on crypto and AI? So they're looking for this specific kind of market, interested in this type of market. VCs, recommendations for contacting these VCs.
Oh, you mean like who are like the best VCs investing in this like niche industry?
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Oh,
if you know.
I to be honest, I don't know any firm like specifically focused on this. I know that Casey, who used to be like an investment partner at Paradigm, recently left to just like be focused on like the intersection of AI and crypto. Maybe she's like about to launch a fund. I don't know, to be honest.
Sounds perfect. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's good enough. Thank you very much. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. So I've invited the next speaker, but he seems to not be connecting. Might be a technical issue. So I'll line up a couple more people to join us, and people who have asked questions in the questions section of the chat.
Okay, I am Elias Hezron, and I wanted to ask basically, how do you manage the fear of missing out? Because, for example, crypto Twitter has a lot of buzz on what's trending, what's the new thing, you know. Manage the FOMO, like crypto Twitter, for example. I am very active on crypto Twitter. Recently, we're talking about zero knowledge proofs as the new thing, and then integration with the blockchain. And now we are talking about AI and blockchain. And I guess before this year ends, we most probably will be talking about nanotechnology and blockchain. How do you do it as an investor to know that maybe this technology is compatible with blockchain? Like AI and blockchain may not be as compatible. People may try to get use cases, but just hypothetically speaking, let's say for every prompt you put in ChatGPT, imagine you had to sign it. I don't think it would really give us the user experience we would be wishing for. So how do you know what to invest in and what is just a buzz and like people talking about being excited about new tech?
Yeah, good question. I think it's a challenge first. That's not easy. I think it's like very important to like maintain your like own investment thesis and criteria, right? obviously like seeing, as I said, like what other like VCs investing might lead to like self-doubts and like question your like own understanding, because let's be honest, these things can be like pretty complex sometimes, but you have to trust your like own research analysis. And yeah, this is how we manage like FOMO. We also have to keep in mind that so far you have like a very limited number of like crypto companies which have like found product market fit. Like many people like or like focused on building solutions looking for problems. So you have to make sure that this technology is applied to the right like use cases. For example, like ZK, it could have like many interesting use cases, but like we have to be like upfront and keep in mind that like the ZK technology has been around for a while, right? So what does like crypto unlock, and to what type of like crypto verticals could like ZK be applied? These are like questions that we have to answer as a VC. But that's hard. That's hard because all these like new technology is always like very cool to see, but you have to keep like a very pragmatic view, I would say, and just trying to back teams that build like basically solutions that solve like real problems, and that's hard to find. You know, that's hard to find in the space.
One last question: do you invest? Does your company invest in ideas, or does it invest in companies that have already found product market fit? Is it like Y Combinator that may probably invest in a brilliant idea because they believe it's going to work, or you want to invest in founders who have already tested their product with the market?
Yeah, so at Lattice, we're like focused on first money in, so pre-seed and seed stage rounds mostly. So in the crypto industry, that means that, I mean, most of the time there is like no product live, and there is like nothing to play with or to try out. So yeah, we're like very valuation sensitive, and we want to back teams as early as possible and just like help them scale and grow. So to be honest, it's like sometimes a bet on the team, the vision, and the market rather than like the product, because at this stage there is like a pretty high likelihood that they will pivot.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, thanks. I have a couple of questions. So Pierre, could you share some key lessons from building and scaling Dove metrics, something that you want to share with us?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I already like discussed the biggest like lesson I learned from like building Dove metrics, which is like even with like a very like a pretty bad product, if you just like solve a real problem, and in that case that was the fact that the fundraising data was missing in the space, you can get like meaningful traction. I'm not saying that you will like necessarily build like a $1 billion company, but you can have like customers and users. So that was definitely the biggest lesson.
Thank you. I want to follow up on this. You mentioned traction. I found that traction in Web3 without Dove metrics, like on a different scale, is kind of hard. Some people have asked for interactions with the smart contract. How do you think we can actually measure a good traction in the Web3 crypto space?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that depends on like several factors, such as like the stage of the company, the market it just like operates in. For example, I mean, like a crypto company operating at a later stage is more likely to have a token, which makes like some token related metrics and like token related traction more important, for example. Like one interesting like narrative that like arose in I think that was in late 2022, was like the real yield one, which is like, honestly, which has nothing new about it actually, because it's just like a real world business is supposed to work. So that's hard to say. If you go like beyond DeFi, I really think that founders should take like inspiration from like Web2 startups and focus on like key metrics to measure the traction. Like, how do you measure engagement and retention with stuff like daily or monthly active users, for example? In that case, you have to define like what an active user is for your project. Is it someone who just like comes to the website? Is it someone who launches the app? Someone who does like 1 transaction, 2 transactions? That's hard to define in crypto. So yeah, it's hard to give like a specific metrics that measures like traction in crypto. That can be like, that's very broad, and that what also makes the space pretty interesting and pretty deep.
Thank you very much. That was very, very thorough. One last question, please. This is about Encode Club. I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly, but how do you think Encode Club can help foster the next generation of entrepreneurs in the blockchain space? Thanks.
Maybe I'm not the right person to answer.
Maybe I can step in here.
No, sorry, I do want to hear Vanessa, but I also want to hear you. This is an AMA. Sorry to push forward. How do you think they could help us? And also, please, Vanessa, could you follow up? I'm sorry if this is coming off as offensive.
No, all good. Maybe I can give a little cheat sheet to Pierre before he can answer this question. But what we do as a company is essentially we are a Web3 education community. We do free coding bootcamps, which are available to everyone. We do workshops, hackathons, and accelerators, all dedicated to builders in the Web3 space. So we're essentially an education community focused on the crypto space. So you can apply your answer to, I assume, any education company that operates in the Web3 space.
Thanks. No, I've been with Encode for almost a year. I love you guys. I'm rooting for you. I wanted Pierre to hear his thoughts. But sorry, Pierre, for that last question. Maybe it was not something you were expecting. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. So Prashant, if you want to ask, I saw you posted several questions in the chat. So if you want to ask now, now's your chance.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks, Vanessa, and Pierre for this session. My question, I mean, you mentioned zero knowledge earlier in your talk, and it is a lot of people are talking about zero knowledge. I wanted to hear from you, what kind of use cases do you see solving, let's say, in a DeFi space? Also, zero knowledge technology promises to bring this Web3 or blockchain technology to masses. So what's your view on that? And here I'm not talking about roll-ups and all that. I'm talking about the use cases for people in finance area. Maybe I wanted to hear from you. And are you investing in this space? So what kind of use cases you will be looking for?
Of course. Yeah, so we haven't backed any like ZK focused company so far, but I mean, obviously we're like open, and this is obviously like a space we want to get some exposure to at some point. We dug into like the intersection of like consumer, social, and ZK lately. I think that's a very cool design space, and like a very cool vertical to apply like ZK. I mean, obviously, as you said, like everyone is like very excited about this like complex math that like has large commercial applications. But I think like that ZK proofs will like allow consumers to share like information with apps in a more like streamlined and private manner. And that has like very interesting like use cases, basically. Like when you think about it, like every fintech or like including like crypto exchanges like requires users to just like upload the like private information, right? It's always the same. It's a huge pain in the ass, let's be honest. it's also not secure. And I'm pretty sure that today, like, my driving license is for sale somewhere in the dark web. So leveraging like ZKPs will like meaningfully improve like the onboarding process for these apps, for example. Like in theory, I could like store any relevant like personal information in like an encrypted manner, and selectively like reveal with a single wallet signature, and that's very powerful. These are like the applications I'm like personally very excited about, but it's like obviously like a very limited view and far from being comprehensive.
Okay, thank you, Peter.
Thank you so much. Jeremiah, if you're up for asking the questions, you can join us now.
So how do you know if a project is going to be pretty useful? Is there a sort of a way to like take a poll? Like sometimes you think you're trying to solve a problem, but whereas maybe after a while you realize maybe it wasn't really necessary. So at what point from incubation do you know if how well your project will end up or your idea will end up?
Yeah, so just to make sure we're like aligned, we're not like an incubator or like a VC fund. So we just have like an investment decision process that we go through, basically like taking calls. I mean, we don't reinvent the wheel on it. Just taking calls with the team and trying to do like some due diligence by talking to like potential early design partners, potential customers, for example, or if we don't have like the expertise to access like the technological side of things, we can just like being like expert if that's necessary. But yeah, this is just like how we basically assess a company before making an investment decision.
Okay. I was basically asking from the point of someone who is trying to be a founder, or maybe you're trying to start up a new project. So is there sort of a way to know how your project will go, or if it's something that is really in the market? Basically, so that was what I was trying to ask.
Yeah, I mean, not sure if I really like understand the question, but I think you have to pick like a small market wedge and grow from there.
Okay.
I think that the key is to narrow your focus on like a very specific like customer type and provide like an unparalleled solution to the problem, right? Once you become like the go-to problem solver for that type of customer, your market will like inevitably broaden. And I think this is like the only way to build through like multiple cycles in crypto. I can give you like an example. Like we backed a company called Layer 3. I think that was like almost 2 years ago, 1 year and a half ago at least. And it like initially came out of the Rari Capital community, which was this like lending solution, this DeFi protocol, which became their like first customer. And from this like specific use case, they showed that the demand was strong and the market was like expanding. And based on this like initial traction, the team raised like the first funding round to become like the best place for like protocols to like reach and acquire and like retain users. And if you look at their metrics now, they have like some dashboards on Dune Analytics. Like the traction is like impressive. So yeah, I think that's the right approach, at least in the crypto industry.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks.
You're up, Connor, if you want to ask the question.
Thanks, Vanessa. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Hi, Vanessa. Salut, Pierre. I was wondering, do you differentiate between the crypto world and the blockchain world, or crypto companies and blockchain companies? And by that, I mean maybe companies where the services they offer are primarily within the crypto world, like DeFi, and a primary metric might be token by issuance or market cap or TVM, versus a blockchain company where blockchain might be a very good way of providing a real world service, like a transparent audit that multiple stakeholders can look at. But the more common metrics for company success, like revenue or growth, might be more applicable there. Do you prefer one side of the house over the other?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think like picking the right term has been like a long discussed topic in the space. I honestly, maybe like blockchain companies are like more tied to like the infrastructure side of things, and like crypto to the financial side of things. I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I think that like any company in the space relies on like the blockchain technology, which is like the infrastructure layer. And so I don't really mind. I don't really do like the differentiation between like these terms, to be honest. I think there is like a good article by Variant. I think that was JC Walden who wrote it on like the difference between like, I think that was Web3 and crypto, and why we should make the difference, and you should maybe check it out. That's a better answer.
Okay. But for your VC investments, you don't really differentiate yourselves?
Not really. Okay. I think we pitch ourselves as an early stage crypto VC fund, but yeah, that could be like an early stage fund as well.
Okay, thanks. And I might throw in another one. I've done Solidity courses with Encode, and I know there are Polkadot ones on at the moment, and there's a Polkadot hackathon coming up. Do you have any preference technology-wise? If it's Rust or if it's Solidity or Solana?
So I think we are. So I said that we were vertical agnostic. I also think that we are like ecosystem agnostic, and by ecosystem I mean like layer ones.
Yeah.
To be like fully transparent, and this is like public. When you look at our portfolio, like the majority of the companies are like built on top of like Ethereum or at least like EVM chains. But that was not necessarily like intentional. I don't think we all like maxis, and we all like very open-minded. But I think this is where you have like the best developers and where like the traction is in the space. So naturally, this is where like most of our portfolio companies actually built. But again, we are like pretty flexible.
Okay, thanks very much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Connor. So unless someone else wants to ask a live question, I'd like to wrap up with a couple of questions, not to take up too much of your time. So on Lattice's blog, I recently read an article you wrote about decentralized governance. So I would like to hear more about your thoughts and kind of your outlook on its future. I found the topic really interesting.
Yeah, so first, I think that like governance has been like a pretty hot narrative like a few years ago, but today like it's back under the radar, right? Like honestly, over the last 18 months, I think I've like chatted with maybe 4 or 5 like governance focused companies. And I also think that like the governance like space and vertical is like pretty broken today. You just have to look at the participation rates. There is like a very high voter apathy, but this is not like specifically tied to like the crypto industry. You just have to look at like political elections in the world. People just don't vote anymore, right? But I do think that crypto could unlock new incentives for people to actually vote and to actually get involved in like governance and how like a company is actually run. And this is like pretty interesting. And this is why I decided to take a deeper look at what was like going on in the space. So yeah, I mean, like, I think that there are like some technological catalysts that could like unlock like the governance ecosystem. In the article, I think I mentioned like soul-bound tokens, which is cool. Like that was something that Vitalik suggested, but I think that we should like build reputation systems by like rewarding voters based on the success of a proposal, right? And to do so, I don't think that ERC20 based voting is the optimal solution, but soul-bound tokens are like an interesting tool for this. So I'm not saying that this is going to fix like the governance ecosystem. I'm just saying that could at least like improve it, and yeah, just like increase the participation rates. It's still unclear to me, to be honest, where governance is going. I also think, like, let's be honest, that might be against like the ethos of this industry, but like honestly, like building an early stage startup in a decentralized fashion by letting people and community members vote on like almost any decision and strategic decision for your company is just like that just doesn't make sense, right? This just like makes the pace of innovation slower, and I don't think that's the future of like tech, to be fully transparent. So I do think that decentralization and governance should be like progressive and applied only if needed. So yeah, we'll see, but I think that's another the radar topic, and still like very overlooked by most founders and even builders. So we'll see. It's still a bit unclear, but it clearly doesn't work today. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see where we actually go with this. So one thing I'm actually also curious on, as an early stage investor, you see a lot of things we won't see for a little bit, they won't show up in the mainstream for a while. So based on your experience as an early stage investor, how do you see the future of, the Web3 space, and how do you think we'll see it evolve in the coming years?
Yeah, I mean, there are like some like emerging trends. I'm like, I've always been like very interested in, but I don't know, like that's hard to say actually. I do think that today, like, so we wrote like an article which was titled like the Web3 Growth Playbook, which was like kind of a thesis for us at Lattice when we started deploying capital. And we highlighted like tools that product managers and marketers use to like acquire, engage, and retain customers using like Web3 technology. And I think that's a key layer for the space to evolve. You need like Web3 like native tools to like identify your users and their like behaviors. Whether you're like an NFT solution or like a DeFi protocols, that doesn't matter. You need these kind of tools, right? You have to use like companies that leverage like stuff like NFTs, on-chain credentials, public keys, ENS addresses, or whatever. And I think that this like identity and like attribution layer is still like very nascent, and I think that's gonna play like a very big role in the future. Then you need solutions to improve like the whole funnel. Like in Web2, you have stuff like Google Analytics for user acquisition. You have like Mixpanel for engagement, MailChimp for retention, and all these like big like software companies. And we need to have like Web3 versions of these tools, right? And I think that Web3, as I said before, like unlocks more powerful like data sets and practices actually that makes like the Web3 growth like stack a massive design space. And I think this is like surprisingly still like pretty overlooked in the space. I mean, you have like obviously you have like a growing number of companies trying to build like engagement tools or like user acquisition solutions, but I think that's going to be playing like a very big role in the Web3 space. So this is something I'm like very excited about. But obviously, I mean, there is like a whole list of things that could like emerge, which are like very exciting.
Awesome. And I assume if people want to see what you're interested in, they can follow you on Twitter, and the Lattice blog is probably a good place to find stuff that you guys find interesting. I posted the links here in chat, so you guys check it out. And my final question would be probably the question that every founder who is present here wants to ask is, for early stage startups who are looking to secure funding, what should they be focusing on, and what advice do you have for them in order for them to stand out to investors? Could be founder related, project related.
Yeah, so as a teaser, maybe I'm going to publish like an article, a blog post titled like "How to Raise a Pre-Seed Round in Crypto," so that might be helpful. And I think that part of my answer just like comes from what I was like what I've been like working on for the article over the last few days. I think a few things actually, like first you have to map the funds you want to speak with. You have a bunch of like Web3 native funds, but also like Web2 funds progressively like entering the space. And you can use like data as like the Messari fundraising data to get a good map of like who is investing in the space, who is investing in what, and that's a good place to start. So just to identify like all the funds you could like talk to, then you have to just trying to list like questions you should ask them when you pitch your business. And you should also like maximize your chance to talk with them, because let's be honest, it's pretty easy today for like a VC investor to reach out to a company, because it's relatively easy to build like a crypto company, given that you can fork, and given that everything is like mostly everything is like open source. So if you have a bunch of copycats in the space, let's be honest, you have maybe like, you have like very few unique ideas getting built to that. So it's very easy for like a VC to speak and to generate like deal flow actually. So you have to maximize your chance to talk to them. You can just like reach out to their like portfolio companies, trying to find like introductions and so on. And then, like to stand out, again, as I said before, I think you just have to show that you guys are like building a solution that actually solves a real problem. If you look at the metrics on like stuff like on-chain data, on like Gene Analytics, even look at the top like protocols, like decentralized protocols, and look at the metrics, it's like very tiny. So this is mostly because most of the products which have been built so far are not made, just like don't solve like problems that people have. People just like don't want to use like a decentralized whatever, because it's not convenient and that's not useful for them. So you just have to like, find a product market niche, like find a very specific problem which is like obvious to you, and find the right way to solve it, and just like build your product based on this. Find like strong believers to raise like a pre-seed funding round in the beginning that gives you like a few months of runway. Iterate from that, fail, repeat, just to reach your next milestone. And then you can just like, try to build like a real company. But that takes time. And I think it's more about the vision, and you have to acknowledge that they're like open questions. You don't have to have like a silver bullet like answers to like any VC questions. That's fine. I mean, if you have like uncertainties and things you're not sure about, obviously that's all right, and you have to admit that, and to be upfront with investors. That's also like another way to stand out actually. But I'm gonna publish this article, which could be useful and give like a more comprehensive like answer to that question.
Amazing. Thanks so much. That was really insightful. And once your article is out, we're going to also embed it in the transcript of this AMA. So whoever is reading it can access it directly. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us. It's been really fun chatting to you. For the listeners here, we're going to be publishing a transcript and a video of this AMA probably in a week or two, depending on processing time and just general media schedule. So it will be up. If you missed a question or an answer, you'll be able to read it or rewatch it with timestamps, so you don't have to waste your time. And then, yeah, hopefully we see you soon at an Encode event again. Thanks so much for taking the time out of your day to join us, Pierre. It's been really fun.
Yeah.
And thanks everyone for joining us. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, guys. That was awesome. And thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you guys, and see you later. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.